Success means successful living. A long period of peace, joy, and happiness on this plane may be termed success. There is no success without peace of mind. If you have ulcers and high blood pressure, that's certainly not successful living. That's failure. The eternal experience of harmony, health, peace, wholeness is the everlasting life spoken of in the Bible. The real things of life, such as peace, harmony, integrity, security, and happiness, are intangible. They come from the world within. The outside world will not give it to you. They come from the deep self of man. Meditating on these qualities builds these treasures of heaven in your subconscious mind. It is where moth and rust do not consume, where thieves do not break through and steal. There are 3 steps to success. The first step to success is to find out the thing you love to do and then do it. Now, that's simple. Success is in loving your work. If you don't love your work, you're certainly a failure. You're not a success. Although, if a man is a psychiatrist, it is not adequate for him to get a diploma and place it on the wall. He must keep up with the times, attend conventions, continue studying the mind and its workings. The successful psychiatrist visits clinics, reads the latest scientific articles. In other words, he's informed on the most advanced methods of alleviating human suffering. The successful psychiatrist or doctor must have the interest of his patients at heart. If he doesn't, he's really a failure. Someone may say, how can I put the first step into operation? I do not know what I should do. In such a case, pray for guidance as follows. It's very simple. The infinite intelligence of my subconscious mind reveals to me my true place in life, where I am doing what I love to do, divinely happy and divinely prospered. Repeat this prayer quietly, positively, and lovingly to your deeper mind. As you persist with faith and confidence, the answer will come to you as a feeling, a hunch, or a tendency in a certain direction. Like a boy in college, he's studying philosophy. All of a sudden, he stops, and he changes over to medicine or something. And because he has asked for guidance to his true place in life. It will come to you clearly and in peace, and as an inner silent awareness, an inner silent knowing of the soul, whereby you know that you know. The second step to success is to specialize in some particular branch of work, and know more about it than anyone else. For example, if a young man chooses chemistry as his profession, he should concentrate on one of the many branches in this field. There's pharmaceutical chemistry, analytical chemistry, and biochemistry, and so on. He should give all of his time and attention to his chosen specialty. If he's studying electronics, well, there are many forms of it, and men may specialize in different ways. He should become sufficiently enthusiastic to try to know all there is available about his field. If possible, he should know more than anyone else in that particular field because he's specializing. The young man should become ardently interested in his work and should desire to serve mankind. He that is greatest among you, let him become your servant. There is a great contrast in this attitude of mind in comparison to that of the man who only wants to make a living or just get by. Getting by is not true success. That's mediocrity. Man's motive must be greater, nobler, and more altruistic. He must serve others, thereby casting his bread upon the waters of his mind. The third step is the most important one of all. You must be sure that the thing you want to do does not redound to your success only. Your desire must not be selfish. It must benefit humanity. The path of a complete circuit must be formed. The circle must be formed. In other words, your idea must go forth with the purpose of blessing or serving the world. It will then come back to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. It might be a book you write which will lift up mankind. It might be some great music. You may have an idea like Edison that will light up the world, you know. If it is to benefit yourself exclusively, the circle or complete circuit is not formed, and you may experience a short circuit in your life which may consist of limitation or sickness. Some people may say, oh yes, but Mr. James made a fortune, or John Jones made a fortune in selling fraudulent oil stock. A man may seem to succeed for a while, but the money he obtained by fraud usually takes wings and flies away. When we rob from another, we rob from ourselves, because we are in a mood of lack and limitation, which may manifest itself in our body, home life, and affairs. When we steal from another, we impoverish ourselves and attract all manner of limitation to us. So man doesn't know, in his ignorance, he doesn't know that he's robbing himself. That's how funny it is. What we think and feel, we create. We create what we believe. Even though a man may have accumulated a fortune fraudulently, he is not successful. There is no success without peace of mind. Supposing a man has ulcer of the stomach, high blood pressure, migraine headaches, arthritis, or cancer or something else, and he has $50 million. Is he successful? That's not being a success. That's not being a success. He's not successful in the art of living. You're here to live life gloriously. You're here to have peace of mind, love, companionship, right action. You're here to release the imprisoned splendor that is within. You're here to have an inner sense of poise and balance and equilibrium, equanimity and serenity. You're here to express more of God every day. What good is man's accumulated wealth if he cannot sleep nights, is sick, or has a guilt complex? Wealth is not a deterrent to happiness or peace of mind or success or anything else. A man may be worth millions of dollars and be very spiritual, godlike, and some of them are, magnanimous and generous. Many of the multimillionaires in this country and other parts of the world, they scatter, we're told, yet they prosper. They're doing incalculable good. They spend millions for banishing or destroying malaria and building hospitals and many other things. They can't count the millions that come back. Some so-called poor people are very envious and jealous. They're jealous of those who have become successful. They're envious. They impoverish themselves, attracting more lack and limitation themselves. I knew a man in London who told me of his exploits. He had been a professional pickpocket, had amassed a large amount of money. He had a summer home in France and lived in a royal fashion in England. His story was that he was in constant dread of being arrested by Scotland Yard. I was his guest one time in a certain part of London where he was teaching young boys how to pick pockets. Yes, he had many inner disorders which were undoubtedly caused by his constant fear and deep-seated guilt complex. He knew he was doing wrong. He knew he was poisoning the minds of these young boys. He knew they would subsequently end up in jail in London. But you see, he was full of avarice and greed. He wasn't interested in the boys. He was interested in the money they were stealing, and they would get a small percentage. This deep sense of guilt attracted all kinds of trouble to him. Subsequently, he voluntarily surrendered to the police and served a prison sentence. After his release from prison, he sought psychological and spiritual counsel and became transformed. He went to work, became an honest, law-abiding citizen. He was able to help others. He found what he loved to do. He was happy. He became transformed by the renewal of his mind. A successful person loves his work and expresses himself fully. Success is contingent upon a higher ideal than the mere accumulation of riches. The man of success is the man who possesses great psychological and spiritual understanding. If you don't have all the money you need to do what you want to do and when you want to do it, you're certainly not a success, because you should have all the money you need for your family, your wife. If your wife needs a new car, you should be able as a man to go out and buy one. If your son wants to go to Paris to study music, you should be able to send him there. So you would not be a success except you were able to do all the things that you really want to do when you want to do it, then you're as rich as Croesus. And all you have to realize is that God is the source of your supply, and all your needs are met at every moment of time and point of space. Write that in your subconscious mind, and you'll never want all the days of your life. Many of the great industrialists today depend upon the correct use of their subconscious mind for their success. Many of the great institutions in this country practice the golden rule. They're billion-dollar corporations. And many of you listening to this cassette know exactly who they are. There was an article published years ago about Flagler, an oil magnate. He was poor. He admitted, when he was young, he was very poor. He admitted that the secret of his success was his ability to see a project in its completion. For instance, in his case, he closed his eyes, imagined a big oil industry, saw trains running on the tracks, heard whistles blowing, and saw smoke. Yet he didn't have any money, as he told the reporter, from Electrical Experimenter. He was a poor boy, but he knew there was oil in those fields, in those yonder fields, you know. Having seen and felt the fulfillment of his prayer, his subconscious mind brought about its realization. He attracted to himself men with money, engineers, chemists, physicists, oilmen, and all the things that were necessary for the unfoldment of his dream. Just like you put a seed in the ground, it undergoes dissolution. And there's a wisdom within that seed that attracts to it phosphates and sulfur, calcium, enzymes, and all things from the soil. When it comes above the ground by a process of photosynthesis, it extracts from the atmosphere and the rays of the sun everything necessary to bring forth the most complex chemical compounds beyond the ken of the wisest man. That's the wisdom in the seed, you know. If you imagine an objective clearly, you will be provided with the necessities in ways you know not of, through the wonder-working power of your subconscious mind. In considering the 3 steps to success, you must never forget the underlying power of the creative forces of your subconscious mind. This is the energy in back of all steps in any plan of success. Your thought is creative. Thought fused with feeling becomes a subjective faith or belief, and according to your belief is it done unto you. Many of the greatest men in this country who contributed to the growth of this country landed penniless, as you know, in New York and Boston and other places. They couldn't even speak the language. One of them was a man called Gainani. He was a peddler. He had a fruit cart. He sold pencils, and groceries, and different from door to door. He studied. He learned the language. He got interested in economics. He studied at night. And he was able to help farmers, loan them money and all that. And he formed the biggest bank in the entire world, called the Bank of America. I suppose that's the reason many people are jealous of him, because he was successful. He rolled up his sleeves. He went to work. He studied at night. He pored over books. He listened to the teachers. And then he did good. And many farmers who were going bankrupt, he loaned them money, preserved their farm. He gave service. And, of course, the bank is the greatest bank in the world today. That was founded by a penniless immigrant who came to this country. He had a dream. He had a vision. Isn't that true of thousands and thousands of men, some of the greatest physicists, scientists, doctors, surgeons, like the great mathematician Einstein, and many others? They contributed to the world, didn't they? So a knowledge of a mighty force in you, which is capable of bringing to pass all your desires, gives you confidence and a sense of peace. Whatever your field of action may be, you should learn the laws of your subconscious mind. Get a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Get another book called The Infinite Power to be Rich. These 2 books are translated into many languages, books I wrote many years ago. And they're immensely popular. They give you the key to impregnating your subconscious mind with success, with harmony, with peace, with right action, illumination, and inspiration. When you know how to apply the powers of your mind, and when you are expressing yourself fully and giving of your talents to others, you are on the sure path to true success. If you are about God's business or any part of it, God by his very nature is for you, so who can be against you? With this understanding, there is no power in heaven or on earth to withhold success from you. You're successful when you're successful in your prayer life, your relationship with people, in your chosen profession, and your communion with things divine. A movie actor told me that he had very little education, but he had a dream as a boy of becoming a successful movie actor. Out in the field, mowing hay, driving the cows home, or even when milking them, he said, I would constantly imagine I saw my name in big lights at a large theater. Here's a man who didn't know anything at all about the laws of mind, yet he was using it. He was using the law. I kept this up, he said, for years, until finally I ran away from home. I got extra jobs in the motion picture field, and the day finally came when I saw my name in great big lights as I did when I was a boy. Then he added, I know the power of sustained imagination to bring success. The Bible puts it this way, call things that be not as though they were, and the unseen become seen. I told you before it came to pass, that when it did come to pass, you might believe. So here's a boy mowing hay. He imagines his name in lights, you see, in a great theater. And he's living that role in his mind. It sinks down into his subconscious, becomes an impression. Whatever is impressed in the subconscious must be expressed as form, function, experience, and event. That's the great law of your mind. 30 years ago, I knew a young pharmacist who was receiving $40 a week plus commission on sales. That was very good salary in those days. After 25 years, he said to me, I will get a pension and retire. I said to this young man, this was in New York, why don't you own your own store? Get out of this place. Raise your sights. Have a dream for your children. Maybe your son wants to be a doctor. Perhaps your daughter desires to be a great musician. Perhaps she would like to go to Europe to study under the great Carteau. His answer was that he had no money. He began to awaken to the fact that whatever he could conceive as true, he could give conception. I explained to him that money is wealth is a state of consciousness, state of mind. Health is a state of mind. You have as much vitality as you've appropriated, much wisdom as you've appropriated, as much peace as you have appropriated. And you have as much wealth as you've established in your subconscious mind, because you must have the mental equivalent of anything you want in this life. A millionaire or a multimillionaire has the exact equivalent of that in his subconscious mind. The first step towards this man's goal was his awakening to the powers of his subconscious mind, which I briefly elaborated on for his benefit. His second step was his realization that if he could succeed in conveying an idea to his subconscious mind, the latter would somehow bring it to pass. He began to imagine that he was in his own store. Imagination is the keyboard to success, you know. The ancient Hebrews called it the workshop of God, because whatever you imagine and feel to be true comes to pass. He mentally arranged the bottles, dispensed prescriptions, and imagined several clerks in the store waiting on customers. He also visualized a big bank balance. Mentally, he worked in that imaginary store. Here's a man getting $40 a week, but using his mind constructively. Like a good actor, he lived the role. Act as though I am and I will be. This pharmacist put himself wholeheartedly into the act, living, moving, and acting on the assumption that he owned the store. The sequel was interesting. He was discharged from his position. He found new employment with a large chain store, became manager, later on district manager. He saved enough money in 4 years to provide a down payment on a drugstore of his own. He called it his dream pharmacy. It was, he said, exactly the store I saw in my imagination. He became a recognized success in his chosen field, and was happy doing what he loved to do. Some years ago, I gave a lecture to a group of businessmen on the powers of imagination and the subconscious mind. In the lecture, I pointed out how Goethe used his imagination wisely when confronted with difficulties and predicaments. His biographers point out that he was accustomed to fill many hours quietly holding imaginary conversations. It is well known that his custom was to imagine one of his friends before him, in a chair, answering him in the right way. In other words, if he were concerned over any problems, he imagined his friend giving him the right or appropriate answer, accompanied with the usual gestures and tonal qualities of the voice, and he made the entire imaginary scene as real and as vivid as possible. One of the men present at this lecture was a young stockbroker. He proceeded to adopt the technique of Goethe. He began to have mental imaginary conversation with a multimillionaire banker friend of his, who used to congratulate him on his wise and sound judgment, and compliment him on his purchase of the right stocks. He used to imagine this imaginary conversation. He used to dramatize this imaginary conversation until he had psychologically fixed it as a form of belief in his mind. That's by repetition. Repeating a little movie that you create yourself in your mind over and over again, doesn't it sink down into your subconscious? Of course it does. This broker's inner talking and controlled imagination certainly agreed with his aim, which was to make sound investments for his clients. His main purpose in life was to make money for his clients and to see them prosper financially by his wise counsel. He is still using his subconscious mind in his business, and he's a brilliant success in his field of endeavor. In other words, he was using someone else to impregnate his subconscious mind with success, achievement, and victory. There's a young boy working with me, operating the machine here. His name is Robbie Wright, while I'm making these cassettes. And he's studying electronics. And oftentimes he imagines that I'm congratulating him as he goes to sleep on his success in electronics, on his success on his trip, on his success in collecting money, too, because he's a DMLA member, and he has a very prominent position, DMLA, and he's sent out to collect money. You know, they have these affairs. They're doing a lot of good, these boys. And he imagines that I'm congratulating him on his tremendous success at night. He knows he's impregnating his subconscious mind, and he collects money, he passes examinations in flying colors, and he's on the way to great things, because he knows the laws of mind and the way of the infinite intelligence within him. He doesn't laugh at it, you know, ridicule it, and say, oh, well, that's nonsense. No, he's using it. And when a boy uses the powers of the mind and discovers that these things work in his examination, as he says, infinite intelligence leads and guides me in all my studies. I pass all examinations in divine order, through divine love. And then the deeper mind responds, and sometimes shows him the answers in dreams and visions of the night. Also as intuition, as an inner feeling. So you open up the book, and you read all the things that you're being questioned about at the examination. That's a very common experience with boys who use their mind. They know the questions before they're asked. Sometimes intuitively, sometimes they see them in dreams and visions of the night. A young boy who was attending high school said to me, I'm getting very poor grades. My memory is failing. I do not know what is the matter. I discovered that the only thing wrong with this boy was his attitude, which was one of indifference and resentment towards some of his teachers and fellow students. I taught him how to use his subconscious mind and how to succeed in his studies. He began to affirm certain truths several times a day, particularly at night prior to sleep, and also in the morning after awakening. These are the best times to impregnate the subconscious mind. He affirmed as follows, I realize that my subconscious mind is a storehouse of memory. It retains everything I read and hear from my teachers. I have a perfect memory, and the infinite intelligence in my subconscious mind constantly reveals to me everything I need to know at all my examinations, whether written or oral. I radiate love and goodwill to all my teachers and fellow students. I sincerely wish for them success and all the blessings of life. This young man is now enjoying a greater freedom than he's ever known. He's at Caltech. He's receiving all A's. He constantly imagines the teachers and his mother congratulating him on his success in his studies. In buying and selling, remember that your conscious mind is the starter and your subconscious mind is the motor. You must start the motor to enable it to perform its work. Your conscious mind is the dynamo that awakens the power of your subconscious mind. The first step in conveying your clarified desire, idea, or image to the deeper mind is to relax, immobilize the attention, get still, and be quiet. This quiet, relaxed, and peaceful attitude of mind prevents extraneous matter and false ideas from interfering with your mental absorption of your ideal. Furthermore, in the quiet, passive, and receptive attitude of mind, effort is reduced to a minimum. The second step is to begin to imagine the reality of that which you desire. For example, you may wish to buy a home, and in your relaxed state of mind is firm as follows: the infinite intelligence of my subconscious mind is all-wise. It reveals to me now the ideal home, which is central, ideal, is in a lovely environment, meets with all my requirements, and is commensurate with my income. I am now turning this request over to my subconscious mind, and I know it responds according to the nature of my request. I release this request with absolute faith and confidence, in the same way that a farmer deposits a seed in the ground, trusting implicitly in the laws of growth. The answer to your prayer may come through an ad in the paper, through a friend, or you may be guided directly to a particular home, which is exactly what you're seeking. There are many ways by which your prayer may be answered. The principal knowledge in which you may place your confidence is that the answer always comes, providing you trust the working of your deeper mind. Be sure you do not deny what you affirm. That's mockery. That's a sham. It's like pressing up and down in an elevator. You don't go up or down. You may wish to sell a home, land, or any kind of property. In private consultation with real estate brokers, I have told them of the way I sold my own home in Orlando Avenue years ago. Many of them have applied the technique I used with remarkable and speedy results. I placed a sign which read, "For sale by the owner," in the garden in front of my home. The day after, I said to myself as I was going to sleep, "Supposing you sold your home, what would you do?" "Oh," I said, "I would take that sign down and throw it in the garage." In my imagination, I took hold of the sign, pulled it up from the ground, placed it on my shoulder, went to the garage, threw it on the floor, and said jokingly to the sign, "I don't need you any more." I felt the inner satisfaction of it all, realizing it was finished. The next day, a man gave me a deposit of $1,000 and said to me, "Take down your sign. We will go into escrow now." Immediately, I pulled up the sign and took it to the garage. The outer action conformed to the inner. There's nothing new about this. As within, so without. As above, so below, as in heaven, meaning your mind, so on earth, so in your body and your environment. All of these are great laws of your deeper mind. The outside mirrors the inside. External action follows internal action. Realize a simple truth. Success and achievement in your work and business. Say to yourself, and mean it, "Today is God's day. I choose happiness, success, prosperity, and peace of mind. I'm divinely guided all day long today, and whatever I do will prosper. Whenever my attention wanders away from my thoughts of success, peace, and prosperity or my good, I will immediately bring back my thoughts to the contemplation of God and His love, knowing that He careth for me. By day and by night you're advancing, moving forward and growing, prospering, spiritually, mentally, intellectually, socially, financially. There's no end to your growth. God loves you and cares for you."